Yeah, let's get into it, guys. Welcome back to the show here, Practical Training Professionals. This is a Practical Training podcast, and today we are honored to have on Spencer Keepers of Keepers Concealment. How did I find Spencer? Well, if you are familiar with the different ways to holster a firearm, one of those ways is the appendix inside the waistband holster. And I was doing some shopping the other day to get myself a new holster and also just to try to find some people that are in that market. And I discovered what some people call the king of appendix inside the waistband holsters. And this is Spencer Keepers. So I wanted to go ahead and bring him on the show and get his opinion about holstering and just really talk to him about his philosophy about firearms. So, nation, let's give it up for Spencer. Spencer, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. So, as I always say, this is a backyard barbecue conversation. This isn't a job interview. So, anything goes. Get yourself comfortable, man.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's kind of funny. Massad Ayoob, in a magazine article, labeled me the priest and high master of appendix carry.
Is that right?
So, yeah. So I often wonder if I'm like the leader of a cult. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And if you guys don't know who Moss is, he's probably one of the leaders in the world of firearms instruction. I haven't had the pleasure of attending his any of his mag training events, but I want to. But what I want to ask you, Spencer, is tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your background before we get into some of the harder questions here.
Grew up in rural Oklahoma. At least it was back then. It's not now. This little town, Mustang, that I grew up in is just skyrocketed in size and populous. Was just kind of always into guns and read all the gun magazines, back when you could have a gun magazine in school, and reading Massad Ayoob articles when I was in middle school, literally. So to, all those years later, to be able to interact with him and have him, write about me and have me in some books and magazines was cool. Worked in a gun shop kind of part-time for a number of years, and just loved it, thought I knew everything about guns. And I kept reading the magazine articles, and it was like, get training. And I started to do that and had kind of a little life event happen to me. And so I just kind of really threw myself into my current real job. And for a number of years, traveled for 20 years and worked my tail off. And back about, I guess it was about 2007, I took my first formal firearms training class. From a local good friend of mine, Will Andrews, at Wilshire Gun here in the city. And it was just hook, line, and sinker.
Okay.
It was just like, I've been a lifelong hunter. I know, shooter, all that, know all that kind of stuff. But carried a gun for way before it was legal, just literally right out of high school. Grew up with a lot of violence in my family, which, sucked as a kid, but, it just is what it is. Kind of made me who I am today, probably.
Sure.
After that first class, there was another class and another class and another class. And if you look at my website, KeepersConcealment.com, there's a, little about Spencer, and the list isn't anywhere near complete, but it's a pretty long list of all the classes that I've taken, been part of, worked as a role player. I've taught at several national conferences, et cetera.
Right.
So
Yeah, actually, we can go ahead and drop this in here. Bam. If you come over here to the website, guys, and you hit up the About section, this actually does a pretty good job of talking about Spencer. It really hits pretty deep. In fact, I don't even know if I'm on the right tab here. No, that's not it. There's one on here that really goes into all of your...
There's an about me, or maybe if you go to the awareness to train.
About Spencer. Yeah. All right. You jump in here, guys, and you'll see, I mean, he has been around. Look at this, right? But that leads me to something I kind of wanted to talk to you about a little bit was... Some people say, right, you could pay to go to training, doesn't make you a good trainer. And we'll get into that in a minute. I want to kind of focus on, so let me just ask this question. It was one that I had written down here I wanted to ask you. So now you actually do your own firearms instruction, right? You have, what's the name of your firearms instruction company?
Awareness Defense Training.
Awareness Defense Training, yep.
Yeah, and, and so how I started that was... I didn't know it at the time, but now, like, if you read about how to become a good firearms trainer, I started as an apprentice, as an AI assistant instructor to my buddy Will, and taught for many years, every Sunday night that I could get free and go up there and help him. Then I started teaching basic level classes, concealed carry classes. And then I got invited to teach at a national conference, the TAC conference with Tom Gibbons and Rangemaster Group.
Yep. And
started teaching there. And then that kind of took me into, teaching abroad. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Of course, last year because of COVID, and then this year because I've been broke. I had a hip replacement and a shoulder scope and some other stuff.
That's a whole different version of broke than most people are familiar with, isn't it?
Right.
I said, what can we do to get this man some money? Get him back in the training room.
Yeah. So got a couple of classes booked. You can find out there on the website, and going to start teaching more locally again later this fall. So.
Okay. But you're the king of appendix carry, essentially. And so I got to ask you, all right, so what came, well, again, I'm going to hold this question. Eventually I'm going to ask you what came first, Keepers Concealment or the ADT, right? So let's talk about the Keepers holster. Where did that come from?
Okay.
And again, this stuff's on the website.
This will answer your question. So the first time I was introduced to appendix carry was by the late Todd Lewis Green. And I looked at him and I said, "Are you fucking nuts? Do you know where that gun is pointed?" Because I was that guy, right?
Yes. And
I spent a weekend with him at a TACCon in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This would have been like 2009 or 10-ish. And I realized that he could get to his gun so much easier in every situation that we were in than I could. I would look across at him from a table eating dinner and, have, me being sandwiched in the middle, how, I don't know, but, I was like, man, he can just lift that shirt up and get straight to his gun. And I've got to do all this movement and manipulation because I was carrying, strong side inside the waistband at that point in time. And a little tidbit on that, I'm known as the appendix guy, but I've got some real solid, I don't mean to brag by any means, but I've got some real solid material on carrying just strong side inside the waistband.
Let me ask you real quick. So I don't know who's listening to this out there in Podcast Village or over there on the YouTube, but can you just briefly in like a couple of sentences explain what the difference is between appendix inside the waistband and then strong side inside the waistband? What's the difference?
Appendix is going to be forward of the hips, somewhere in between. If you look at the waist as a clock, right, it's going to be somewhere between 10 and 2.
Okay. So around the front of your body, right?
Correct.
Across the belly line.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So it's really, most people, if you look at it, it's going to be like 11 to 1 o'clock, right in the center line of your waist.
Okay.
Where strong side is going to be 3 o'clock or more, if you will. It's going to be, 3, 4, 5, and, like 9, 7, and 6.
So more from your hip toward your spine. So more toward the back of your body. Right.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. Yep. Yep. That's the primary difference between the two.
Okay. So you were talking about sitting there at dinner, and you were looking around, you're looking at the trainers that you were with, and you could see that this guy could very easily draw his firearm where you had to go through several motions to be able to get yours. So there was definitely a disadvantage that you witnessed at that dinner table. So yes, what's next? Correct. What's after that?
So I came home from that event, and I was like, I have to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And so what I did is I carried a Glock 35 at the time. And I took a clear Glock 35 and I put it, basically just, shoved it in my waistband. And I was like, okay, the first thing I got to figure out is how to sit down. And it's really super hard to figure that out. You just take your butt and put it in a chair. So I am a little bit of a smart ass, and I apologize for that.
Send it. We like it around
really
here.
Simple, right?
Yeah.
But the gun, printed horribly bad. And so I figured out that I was going to have to raise my waistline of my pants immediately. I just didn't have the length to carry that gun, and I was determined to carry that gun. And what I did is I actually, just started kind of pushing around on the gun, and I could actually make the gun hide, but I had to push on the grip and pull on the muzzle. And so you being an engineer, I'm an engineering tech, right? Mm-hmm. I'm really good at mechanical. I am horrible at computer stuff, which is why I have a very limited social media presence. So I thought to myself, I need a holster that does this, right? And so I basically just reverse engineered that. And that included an old leather holster with one strap, a bunch of duct tape, a bunch of foam, and a 12 gauge shotgun shell. Okay. And I made, if you will, a holster that was actually serviceable. It by any means wasn't the best, but it actually hid the gun. And I figured out how to do it comfortably. So to just kind of skip straight into that, I started looking at appendix holsters. At the time, there were 2 companies that were known for making appendix holsters. I ordered a holster from each company. Mm-hmm. I was quoted over a year wait.
What year was this? About how long ago was this?
So this would have, I actually kind of lose track, and I kind of hate that, because this would have been like 2000. I'm going to say like 2010.
All right, so right? about 10 years ago, maybe a little more, maybe a little less.
Right, maybe 2009. Kind of all gray a little back then. Sure. And so what I did instead, I ordered those holsters, and then I was like, man, I don't know what gun I'm going to carry in a year. I may move to something else, right. And so I literally got on, a site, and I ordered a Kydex and a foam press and a Dremel and a heat gun. And the next thing I know, Keepers Concealment was born in my garage.
Just like that.
I started jimmy rigging holsters, and I was on a very small internet forum at the time, very very kind of high end guys that were really diving deep into kind of all aspects of firearms training, not just firearms, but the combatives that goes around that. Right. Grappling with a gun and solving that like 0 to 3 foot problem. As well as being a good shooter and grappler and, et cetera. And a buddy of mine had one of these holsters for sale for a Glock 34 or 35. And so I sent him a ton of money and I was like, dude, overnight that holster to me. So he did that. And I was in the process of building my first holster. I got the holster done and the belt loop done. And it was a Saturday. And that other holster came in. So on the way to the hardware store to buy screws to attach the belt loop to the holster that I had just built, I stopped at the post office and picked that holster up, drove to the hardware store, put that holster on, put my gun in it, and went into the hardware store to buy screws for that one holster that I had already built before. I'd already built this holster before I ever got the other one. So it was really, it was 100% my design. And when I got the manufactured holster, I was like, you know what? Mine isn't finished as well, but the features I think are actually better. And maybe I was a little biased.
Sure. Aren't we all
right?
A little bit?
And so I go into the hardware store, Lowe's, and I'm standing at the screw bins and I'm, looking through the screw bins, trying to figure out which screws I think I need to bolt this thing up. And as I'm doing that, I have 2 guys that are young, fit, just screamed law enforcement, security, something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And they came and they stood on either side of me, very close, and it bugged me a little bit. But I'm, kind of looked at both of them. I'm still looking for screws. And then I had 2 other guys kind of the same way come and stand on either hip.
Wow.
So essentially I've got 4 guys surrounding me.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, that's it. I'm out of here. And because they weren't really, it was just odd. It was a little spooky. And so I grabbed the packs of screws I thought I needed. I shut the door. And as I did that, the pack of screws I needed the most fell to the ground.
Oh, no.
I simply bent down real quick, grabbed those, turned around and exited in a hurry and just like a sprint almost. And I realized at that second that I would carry appendix from then on. Because had I been carrying strong side, I would have had to done some sort of contortion, stick my leg out and bend over to try not to print, or do a deep squat to, grab that, which, put me in a more vulnerable position. Right.
Yeah. You would have been flagging your firearm. People would have noticed. That's kind of what that print term means is your, the intent of conceal is to conceal. And when you print, it's being able, your shirt or whatever you're wearing really kind of just, it's your firearm prints onto your shirt and you can see it. Right.
Right. So with, 4 guys standing right there and not knowing their intent, because it was really weird. Yeah. I didn't want to print. I wanted to get out of that situation as fast as I could. And so I was able to do that carrying appendix. Just bent over real quick, snatched that screw bag, and out I went. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, it was just like light bulb moment. This is the way I'm going to carry it from now And that has been true. And then I've spent, the last, however many years, like we discussed, trying to perfect that and working with a vast number of people with vastly different body types. Basically from that, the way I try to explain how to make appendix work is it is like a mathematical equation. And talk about the equation that is appendix. And that equation can be very simple for some people. They can order a holster. They put the holster on. It's already happens to be adjusted just exactly right for them.
Right.
And boom, they're done. That's it. And then there are body types that require a huge list. And I don't know how much time you'd want to spend on that, but I'll just throw a few things out that impacts appendix carry for making it work for most people. Ride height and cant of the holster are huge. Belt tension is huge. Pant height, waist height and fit, shirt fit. There's just a whole laundry list of things that can affect, body type. There's some body types that appendix carry will just not work with, and that's fine. And
so do you think that you've figured it out and have developed the most universal AIWB holster there is? I mean, would you recommend yours for after working with all of these different body types to get to your final result? Do you think you've hit it? I mean, is it there?
So here's what I'll say to that. It depends. So one of the things that I base a carry system on, right, is I want full capability of my concealed carry setup.
Right.
Okay. When I say full capability, what I am basing that on is I want to be able to do an 8-hour, 500+ round class comfortably the entire time. Okay. If I can't do that, I feel like I am giving up some form of capability. Okay. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's bad, right?
Yeah, there's trade-offs at some point that need to be made.
There's trade-off for everything, right? Yep. So there's a lot of really good holsters, and when I do my AIWB skills class, I've got holsters from a slew of my competitors. And, a lot of those guys are actually friends, to some degree. And, I talk about their holsters, and I talk about the pluses and the minuses of all the holsters, including my own, I think we build a really solid traditional appendix holster. And we have like in a lot of areas, a cult-like following. But I also know that there is not any single holster out there that is going to work for everyone. And sure. I have said this more times than I care to admit, but well, actually I don't. But I am far more concerned about people being able to discreetly and comfortably carry a firearm than I am about trying to sell another holster.
I love that. That is, the value is in the product, not in the quality, not in the quantity of products that you're selling. You're delivering quality, right? And hopefully that applies, and hopefully somebody could use that in their, in their self-defense practices. And that's what it's about,
Yeah. 100%. you know, I just had a conversation today with a guy over in England. He PM'd me through Facebook, which I just find that amazing that people do that. And I'm fine with that because I actually respond to that way better than I typically answer emails and stuff like that. And, you know, he had a bunch of questions. Apparently he's got dual citizenship and comes to Illinois at times. And, you know, he was like, hey, you know, I want one of your holsters for this gun. And I was like, well, we don't make one for that yet. We will. It was a Springfield Hellcat. And he was like, well, I'll just wait then. I'm like, dude, don't do that. You know, get you a holster, start carrying a gun.
Yeah.
Cause I don't know, we're pretty slammed. And I don't know when we're going to be able to get around to introduce new models. So, you know, in the meantime, get you a holster.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And I directed him to some of my competitors, but I think they make really high quality gear. And if he can get a holster and start carrying a gun comfortably, then I'm all for that. So
let's pull up the Keepers, the Keeper, the original here. All right. So this is from KeepersConcealment.com. This is your website here. I mean, that is what you're looking for in a concealed carry holster, right? Not as any kind of diminishing comment here, but it's simple, right? So right. This foam pad right here, this is to adjust the muzzle in or out as it lays against your breeches. Am I right there?
That's correct. Yeah. Yep.
And yep. I know you said initially that was one of the concerns you had because you needed the handle kind of canted in and the holster kind of canted out a little bit, and you have that here, which is really cool. And right. Yeah, I mean this is pretty. I mean, it looks pretty cool here. And another thing I like that I'm seeing here is this patented, right? So at what point in the process did you decide that I've got something here, I need to protect this? Like putting a patent on this was a decision you made. Can you tell us about why you made that decision?
Because of some very high members of the training gun community. And that patent has been just an absolute catastrophe.
Has it?
Yeah. One of the jokes I tell in any of my classes, if you're a patent attorney, you have to leave. Thank you for your money, but you don't get to participate. I've had really, really bad luck with the few patent attorneys that I've been involved with. And, you know, the Velcro foam wedge thing, that was 100% from me. No one else had done that prior to me doing that. And it's just, you know, it's spread all over the holster making community. And then the design of the Keeper has been copied just, you know, time and time and time again. Mm-hmm. And, maybe that's a good form of flattery.
That's what they say, right? Imitation is the best form of flattery, but when it starts hitting your pocketbook, sometimes you got to challenge that a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And that has not worked out at all for me. And, but it is a patent. It has some really cool built-in features. The little trigger finger pinch that I like to talk about, isn't available in a lot of the other holsters out there. And what I'm talking about, I'll just demo that real quick. I didn't have any intention to do this today, but
well, let's break it out.
So, clear Glock 17,
Roger.
right?
Yep.
Keeper holster.
Yep, we got it.
This has a RMR. This is how we actually do our RMR cut. We actually mold a wedge into that so it protects the RMR from your body, so they stay a lot cleaner, we've noticed. But so please understand, for everybody listening or watching, I would never, ever, ever tell you to holster your gun with your finger on the trigger. Okay.
Right.
But I have seen it time and time and time again on the range when people get frustrated. They do things that they would never believe they would do. And one of that is I have seen people holster the gun with their finger on the trigger. So when I saw that and I was building the holsters, I thought, man, it would be so cool if there was some way I could build a feature into the holster that it would kind of help prevent that. And so what I actually came up with was the way this lip here is designed.
Okay.
Kind of helps this portion right here kind of helps prevent that. And what I mean by that, finger on the trigger, as I go to holster it, this camera is like going there.
There you are. We see it.
Kind of see that white line on my finger right there.
Yes.
It actually pulls the pad of the finger away from the trigger. And
oh, that's clever.
It actually has quite a bit of pain. You can see that little crease in my finger right there, right?
Yep.
So that provides like instantaneous feedback of, hey, stupid, you're doing something wrong. Stop and fix it.
Yep.
Right. Where a lot of the holsters that are built today, they actually hit the finger farther in, and they will actually help press the finger onto the trigger. Yeah.
Wow. That's knuckleheaded.
So that's just something that I came up with.
Well, I mean, your reputation, although, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are imitating what you're doing, you know, as we were mentioning at the beginning of the episode here, you know, you were called, what did Moss call you?
The priest and high master of appendix carry.
Exactly. So your reputation speaks for itself, you know, and it's, this isn't a Coke Pepsi type conversation here. I mean, you're obviously, if we're talking about it like that, you're the Coke and everything else is kind of the Sam's Club version of that. You know what I'm saying? Of Sam's Club Cola, where you're the Coca-Cola in the room. So that's the analogy. Or that's a good enough analogy right there. We'll leave it at that. Yeah. I was going to get into the craft beer scene, but that may not relate. But I'm going to pull back over here to your website real quick, because it's not just the Keeper that you offer, and you really got into a lot of different stuff. And I wanted to ask about that a little bit. So let me pull this up, right? So if you're, again, over here at KeepersConcealment.com, this is Spencer's website where you could look at all of his products. As he was mentioning here, we kind of started with the Keeper, but one of the ones that I like, so the Keeper, from my understanding, after just kind of doing some digging in, right, the Keeper is for your full body firearm, right, your double stacks. What do you have out there now for somebody who's carrying something more like a shield, something smaller than that? Would that be the Keeper Light, or are we looking at the Aaron? I love the Aaron. I don't have one yet, but since quarantine started during COVID and everybody started staying home, I found myself wearing a lot more sweatpants. I think that
100%.
I think that the Aaron, if I buy a Keeper's holster, it's going to be the Aaron for me. But well, of course, I would like to try all of these, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's where I'm going to be at. But for somebody who carries something a little bit smaller than the Glock 35, right, what would you recommend for them from your products here?
So we'll talk about the Aaron real quick. That was that holster was kind of built around the premise of you know, a bunch of guys back in the day, before I got, you know, had 3 joint replacements and I think I'm on surgery number 28 now. I lifted weights and did jiu-jitsu and all that. And so we were trying to come up with, I actually worked with Craig Douglas on this. We were trying to come up with, at the time, a holster that we could just slip on real quick to gi pants and be able to be armed from, you know, like our car into the jiu-jitsu school and the jiu-jitsu school to our vehicle. And then the name the Aaron come around was, you know, think about it. You've been doing your normal day routine. You've had, all your full carry gear on all day. You come home, you crash into sweatpants or gym shorts or whatever. And, in my case, my stepdaughter would come around the corner and be like, oh, hey, by the way, I need, XYZ for school in the morning.
Right.
And here off we go to Walmart. And I know none of the listeners has ever decided, you know what? I'm not putting all that crap back on. I'm just going to run in and out of the store, and they would go unarmed. That's never happened.
Mm-hmm. No, of course not.
Right. So the Aaron was, something you could just put on real quick, at the time it was based around like the Glock 43 and the Walther PPS and the Smith & Wesson Shield. And, you can just slip that on real quick because it works with or without a belt. And, go into Walmart, get your stuff, come home and, be okay. And it was never really built in design mind anyhow to be like a 100% full duty type holster where you're carrying that holster all the time. But people have done that and done that very successfully.
Okay.
And so the clip that we use on that, we actually take and stipple the tooth of the clip. So you can't really see it from the pictures, but that gives it some more grip surface to kind of snag on the clothing.
Okay.
So that is another reason that it works really well, with sweatpants or gym shorts, or we've had a lot of girls carry it in yoga pants, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it's just a nice little comfortable holster. And nowadays, you've got the Glock 48 where you can get, Shield 15 round mags for that. I'm currently carrying a Smith & Wesson Shield Plus Performance Center. So it's a 4-inch Shield, but it's 13-in-1.
Okay.
Carrying I'm actually using a keeper because we make a keeper for that particular gun. But I have a clip on it instead of a belt loop. So that allows me to, take it on and off gym pants, sweat shorts, all that stuff. So, and then from there, and of course it will work on a belt. We offer both 1.5 and 1.75 clips. So it'll clip right onto a belt and work really well. Then we move to the Cornerstone.
Yeah, let's check that out. I haven't even dug into this one yet. Let me see what the Cornerstone is. So this is tuckable, it says. Let me pull this bad boy up on the screen here for the guys watching. Again, if you guys are listening audio only, head over to the YouTube channel, PTP Firearms Training, PTPGun.com, Firearms Training. Either one of those will get you there, and you'll be able to see what we're seeing on the screen here, guys. Also, even it's simpler than that, head over to KeepersConcealment.com. Everything's there. Show Spencer some love, but let's go ahead and pull this up real quick. All right, so the Cornerstone tuckable. Yes. What is that?
So the Cornerstone is like kind of a next-gen keeper, Aaron, keeper light, like kind of all put together, but we wanted a holster that was tuckable. So we're using the discrete carry concept clips. Those things are bulletproof beyond belief.
Okay.
They make a fabulous product. They're well used in the industry, but it allows, the way we've got it set up, it allows the user to be able to tuck their shirt in so they can wear like a suit and tie. We actually have... Yeah, so we actually have a couple of do you have a YouTube video? Do you have a YouTube video of that demoing that or not? Let me see if I can pull it up. Yes.
Right, let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
On Keepers Concealment YouTube page, which we desperately need to upgrade. So
let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Please go ahead and continue what you were saying while I try to find this.
And so we actually have a couple of guys that are 3-letter agents guys, if you will. So they're, you know, they work for a law enforcement agency from the .gov. I can't really talk about, you know, which ones those are.
Sure.
They both are they're not a uniformed police officer at all. They're both very plain clothes, but they spend quite a bit of time in the courtroom, and it's pretty amazing. Some pretty amazing pictures of those guys in a suit and tie in a federal courtroom with close-ups of their body where the gun is, and you just absolutely cannot see it.
So let me jump over here real quick. I actually have it pulled up. Excuse me, guys. Again, this is Spencer's material from Keepers Concealment, their YouTube channel. There'll be links down in the description for you audio only guys, but let's go ahead and pull up. I'm actually going to go full screen here, Spence, and see what this is here. So this says the new product announcement. I'm guessing this is it.
Hi, this is Nate coming to you today with Keepers Concealment. We're out here to talk about our latest product. Our latest product is the holster called the Cornerstone. This new holster is coming to you time now. The initial release will include 4 models. I have the standard frame Glock pistols. This will fit the 17, the 19, all other caliber derivatives within those sizes. I have the slim frame Glocks, the Glock 43, the Glock 43X, and the Glock 48. The classic Smith & Wesson Shield, and the wonderful SIG P365. These holsters will be available for you to buy in any color you want as long as it is black. I brought red holsters today so that you can further look at the fine details that make this such a exceptional holster. The most important of which is the tuckability.
Oh, wow. Check that out.
You can tuck your shirt in behind.
I didn't even see him carry it. Hold on one second. Let me bounce back. Let me bounce back a little bit because that was, I mean, I'm going to pause that for a second. So I'm watching this guy. And I'm looking. I'm like, okay, awesome. He's showing us what models they fit, but is he wearing one? Is he not? And I couldn't see it. So guys, if you're watching this again, try to keep an eye on what was this gentleman's name?
This is a friend of mine named Nate.
All right, let's watch Nate's waistband and see if he's printing it all with this firearm. Let's check it out again.
Exceptional holster. The most important of which is the tuckability.
Look at that crap. you can't make that up.
And over your pistol. And that is done with the discreet carry concept clip.
Let me actually bounce back. Let me bounce back one more. I want to get to the beginning of the episode here where old boy's standing there. I mean, I'm looking here. I might be able to see just a scotch of the magwell here, but nothing, man. Check this thing out.
This is Nate coming to you today with Keepers Concealment. We're out here to talk to you about our latest
And you know, if he's got his hands down or something like that, you can't. You're not seeing it. Wow. All right, tell us more about this and why you decided to come up with the Cornerstone, man. That's cool.
Yeah. So the Cornerstone does some things that is really pretty amazing. If you continue on with the video, so one of the things that is a big concern is the thickness of the holster. And what I'm referring to is this measurement here.
Okay.
From the back to the front of the holster, right?
Sure.
Well, the thicker that is, the harder it will be to conceal. End of story.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, but we also have to have some ability to turn the grip of the gun into the body. And with the Keeper, we do that with this right here. We call that a wedge. Right?
All right. So audio only guys, you're seeing, again, head over to the YouTube, Practical Training Professional, or PTPGun.com, firearms training on YouTube. You'll be able to see all this, guys. Please continue.
And so basically what that does is the belt comes through that. It takes and turns the grip of the gun into the body.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then as you talked about, the foam wedge pushes the muzzle away from the body, which hinges on the belt and tucks the grip of the gun into the body.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's its purpose. along with comfort and heat dissipation and some other stuff. But what we did with the Cornerstone is we actually made a swell or a wave instead of that wedge.
Mm-hmm.
And it drastically reduced the thickness of that holster. So we have the same ability to tuck the grip of the gun into the body, but yet it's literally no thicker than the gun is plus the 2 thicknesses of Kydex.
Wow, that's really cool, man.
So
you are the king. You are the king of appendix inside the waistband. I'm telling you,
pretty snazzy. And I'm not going to take full credit for that. I had some input to that, but that's some of the guys that we had working for us.
Very cool.
And we intend to expand that line greatly. We've just been kind of slammed. I'm actually looking for some new employees now. So hopefully we'll, be able to produce that for a bunch of new guns coming up here soon. But the ability to tuck that thing is amazing. And then the other cool part about that is you can take that holster on and off as needed, kind of like the Errand, but it's a vastly more secure clip. In fact, we've had a few like even high-level instructors, guys that, carry a gun every day, I actually send them back and they're like, man, I don't want to have to mess with those clips, because those clips can be kind of a pain to put on and take off, because they have so much spring pressure in them. They're made out of high tensile spring steel, and then heated. They're bent, and then they are hardened.
Oh man!
So they're just. You will literally, and part of their deal is they actually take like a piece of steel that's designed like the same dimensions as a belt, and they'll bolt those up to a holster. And if their deal is they have to be able to bend that thing like 90 degrees without the holster or the clips breaking.
Very cool. And that's what you want with your holster. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of people, consider one of the dangers to anybody that's carrying, rather concealed or not, is the threat of somebody coming up and trying to remove that holster from you. So securing the holster to your body is important, and seeing that and hearing what you're saying about those actual clips being kind of a pain in the ass because of how well they work.
Right.
That's a good thing in my book.
Yeah, 100%.
So we talked a little bit about the Keeper, the Errand, and the Cornerstone. Let me get your plug. Let's pivot away from holsters here a little bit and talk about your training. So,
okay,
what came first? Was it the training, or was it the holster game? Like, what came first? Awareness, defense training, or Keepers Concealment?
Actually, awareness defense came but it was so in its infancy.
Mm-hmm.
So in all honesty, probably with any impact, the holster company came first. And then, the training company grew, if you will, underneath the holster company.
Okay.
I got more notoriety from the holster company, and it seems like I have a little bit more notoriety from the training company now.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Let me ask you this. So something that we've kind of experienced just to a very small extent is, you train, you get somebody that comes out to all of your training. They seem friendly, and you become friends with them, or at least acquaintances to some extent. And then they see what you do, and then they want to emulate that. And then they go out and they start their own firearms instruction company, or in your case, maybe a holstering company. Have you seen that in your experience? And in fact, I even thought I saw somewhere that you train people how to make their own holsters. Is that true?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Now I got bad information on that. But what I wanted to ask you is, what is your opinion about training your competition for, in firearms instruction? Have you ever had anybody that you've trained that later on became your competition? And if so, if not, would that be a good thing? Do you welcome that competition? Or if it has happened, can you share an experience about that?
Well, it kind of has happened. Yes. And as far as like, training the competition, if you're a firearms trainer and you are not training yourself under different people, at least once or twice a year, if you're, kind of a high-end, top-tier firearms trainer, you're wrong.
Right.
Just 100%. So I have good friends in the firearms training industry, and I have guys that just, we're just kind of like oil and water and don't really mix. And that's fine. That's just life in general. You'll find that in any industry. But I am 100% with training other firearms trainers. I encourage those guys to come to my classes, and because a lot of the material that I cover is all about being able to live with a gun on your body, and how to do that comfortably and concealed, right?
Yes.
So I'm actually teaching a class for some .gov guys later this year. That their standard deal is uniformed law enforcement, but they also do quite a bit of plain clothes and then off-duty carry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I really shine is over 30 plus years now of carrying a gun concealed.
So what is your, we're getting here to the end of the broadcast, and I want to make sure I hit you with a couple of good questions here at the end to get people to just kind of better understand the why behind it, what it is that you do. Can you give us just an insight, like what is your general philosophy when it comes to firearms, right? Do you think, of course we've got the Second Amendment that we live by, that was, birthed to us, by being born in this awesome country. But what, if there was like, I don't know, let's call it like 3 major tenets of, responsible firearms ownership, what would those be for Spencer Keepers?
Oh, okay. First, beyond any shadow of a doubt, get training. I don't care if try and make this point, and I don't intend to offend anyone. Okay. This is just like a factual statement though. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I have been in countless, big groups of very well-known top-tier firearms trainers. I've trained with the who's who and taught with them. And one of the things that comes up constantly, the most scary statement that we will hear is, "You don't have to worry about me. I've been around guns all my life." Yep. And that unfortunately leads us to people that have really bad habits and they don't know it. Right.
That's right.
That's just the way they've always done it. And they don't know what they don't know. And for the listeners out there, guys, gals, get good training. Okay. Really ingrain the 4 fundamental rules of firearms safety. And when I say ingrained those, what I mean by that is, if I wake you up on New Year's Eve night from a drunken stupor, I want you to be able to quote those 4 fundamental rules of firearm safety to me verbatim and build those into your life and understand how to use them. Okay?
Yep.
You know, keep your finger off the trigger.
Yep.
Don't point the gun at anything that doesn't need to be destroyed. And, you know, that can get expanded on greatly because, and I'll just touch on this. We're talking self-defense. I am a, huge advocate of just because somebody is in my home doesn't mean that they need to be shot.
Agreed.
Okay. I have had it happen to me in this house. And I have seen the tragedy of people shooting their own children because the kid snuck out, I never did that as a teenager ever.
No, of course not.
Sneaking out of my house to go to a party, right? And then sneaking back in. I guess that would be one of my big things is target identification. And being able to have some real verbal judo and a command presence of be able to actually talk to people with a gun in your hand and think while you're doing it. There's just a lot of tragedies that could be avoided if people did that. Past the gun and being trained, right, is really, I guess I would say the next thing is having verbal skills and having awareness skills that allow you to deal with people. I call it, and I actually teach a class on this. I haven't been to it very much the last couple of years, but I'm going to add more called situational control. And it's basically the soft skills that allow us to deal with people safely and professionally. If you're a good street cop, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, sure.
You've got all those skills dialed out.
So we talked about training is number 1 on your list of tenets.
Yes.
The second is kind of social awareness and presence. I'm certain that on that second one there is some training involved as well, right? Because nothing's just going to pop into your brain.
Right.
But, how to de-escalate a threat, how to recognize a threat, figure out who the prey and the predator are in that threat zone, different stuff like that for your social awareness. And then what's number 3 here? So we got training, social awareness, and what's number 3 on Spencer's big 3?
It would probably be the fact that I get really upset with the holsters that are magnet clips for your car, or people that will get a firearm, put it in the car, and then like somehow or another, because it's in the car, it protects them. Okay. The gun should be on your body.
Okay.
Or if we do have to leave it in a vehicle, it should be secured in that vehicle in, some form, a little safe. And they make them for less than like $20, that it's just a little, box. It's a safe, and it's got a cable that connects to your, like your seat bracketry and stuff like that. Right. My mentor, Tom Gibbons, he doesn't really talk about this very much, but he's been in 3 shootings as a civilian, and all 3 of those, the bad guys got their guns out of vehicles.
It's crazy.
And I don't, my old neighbor came to me one day in the garage, and he was like, "Man, you're not going to believe this." I was like, "What?" He goes, "My truck got broken into last night." I was like, "Oh man, that stinks." I said, "What did they take?" He said, "Well, I had my gun laying on top of my wallet." Right.
Come on.
You know, right. But here's the deal. He was a 4-tour Army dude that, you know, was a combat vet from the sandbox.
Yeah.
And if you said that to people, they would assume that he is far more trained than I am. Right?
It could be, yeah. People could look at it that way.
He hasn't been, he wasn't able to understand, you know, what those 4 fundamental rules of firearm safety really mean, you know, and part of that is making sure your firearms are secured.
And that gives, you know, that opens up a whole nother can of worms, Spencer. You know, you look at all of the kind of anti-gun folks, and, you know, one of their biggest pushes really is all of these stolen guns and irresponsible gun owners that leave guns laying around, you know, kids picking them up and accidentally shooting themselves, or, you know, stolen guns. If we go back in time a few years, there was that young lady out in San Francisco that there was an illegal immigrant that allegedly stole a gun from a Department of Parks pickup truck and then killed that young lady. You know, It's like, having that gun, you know, I've been approached because we do product reviews on the show here. I've been approached by some of those guys that got those gun locks, or the truck stuff, right? Where you kind of screw it to the truck and it holds your firearm in there, and then you kind of rack it and pull it out. It's like, just
right, yeah.
You're going through the same steps as if you would just carry the damn thing. Keep it on your body. How many times have you gotten out of your truck, made it to the front door of the store, and realized you forgot your wallet in the damn truck? You know, the same thing's going to happen with your firearm. You know,
yes.
There's a reason. You have got to be responsible.
Yes,
and I completely agree with you, man. And you would think, you know, your Army buddy there, you know, on deployment, you got your weapon with you all the time. In fact, in the Army, from the day you show up at boot camp, you have your firearm with you constantly. Except if you go to the bathroom, you're not allowed to take it in there with you when you're in basic training, because you might kill yourself. But any other time, so you would think that he would get it, but some people, they just get complacent, and having that, you know, oh, it's in the center console, or oh, I'm keeping it in the glove box. That's, to me, is just irresponsible stewardship of your firearm and your execution of your Second Amendment right. We're granted that right to be able to bear arms. Act as if you know what the fuck, excuse my language, that right really means. Don't leave your stuff laying around. You're not going to leave a bottle of booze out, you know, with a bunch of 3-year-olds walking around, because they might drink the stuff, right? You put your stuff on the top shelf. And yeah, so that, I kind of get a little bit passionate about that one, Spencer, because I've just seen it too many times in my life. I've read too many news stories of kids, toddlers, anybody else getting their hands on a gun, and then, you know, and you're already carrying it in the level 1 position, right? So it's loaded with one in the chamber, ready to go. I mean, that's safe firearms there. Now, and now you're going to leave it in your truck. Come on, man. But
well, and you know, not only that, but like, and just to harp on the truck, just here 2 weeks ago, there was a 5-year-old with his grandfather and his grandfather had a gun in the truck and pulled up rancher dude had to run into the bank to get something done real quick. And what the 5-year-old do? He pulled the gun out and killed himself with it accidentally.
Oh, man.
And I mean, and that guy is going to have to live with that for the rest of his life.
I can't imagine.
Then the other side, flip side of that is, like, we make a holster for purse carry, and I'm not against purse carry, but you got to understand that is now a holster. It's not a purse.
Right.
And you have to have 100% accountability to that. So if you're a young mom with toddlers, purse carry is a horrible option for you. If you're a mother of adult children that don't have children, and you can control your firearm in that purse 100% of the time, then purse carry is a great option for you.
Yeah, if you're wearing a dress, maybe if you're wearing a dress or you're wearing something that doesn't lend itself to be able to readily access your firearm on demand, some kind of tactical bag, be it a purse or be it something else, it does kind of make sense. But again, you got to be responsible with it. It just comes with the territory. And, if you grow up in a place, like for Arizona, for instance, where I grew up, everybody's got a gun out there and it's pretty common. I mean, you used to go to school and people would have rifles hanging on their window. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Spencer's raising his hand here. It was probably him. And looking back at that today, as we've kind of evolved as a society, that stuff just wouldn't fly. And there's a lot more, Spencer, that we could get into on that. Like, why did that guy have to remove his firearm to go inside the bank? Right now we're talking about gun-free zones, and it's like, okay, so I'm allowed by the Second Amendment to defend myself when I'm in my vehicle or on the street, but as soon as I go in this building, I can't defend myself anymore.
Well, and in Oklahoma, a lot of the banks, you can carry a gun into them.
Really?
Yeah, and then very cautious about saying this, but concealed is concealed.
Agreed. We'll leave it at that, right?
And then, and I'm gonna just pick on this situation. Which is more grievous? Maybe breaking a trespassing rule or leaving a firearm with an unattended child.
I know what my answer is. Guys listening.
I think any rational human would agree that if pressed into that situation, one, try and avoid the situation altogether, right?
Yeah.
But if my choice is I have to run into this bank to continue my, productive life, if you will, right? And I have a gun, I either have an option of carrying in there concealed, nothing bad is going to happen, right? Or I have to try and now manipulate the gun to make it safe and leave it in the vehicle. And if you had if you had one of the little vehicle safes, you could just drop the thing in there, roll the combo lock, your gun, you're good.
Remove your damn magazine. And again, it's part of that. Just kind of, it's about being present, and being responsible with your firearm.
Yeah, and if it is a semi-auto, you can remove your slide and throw the slide in your pocket. Now you're not carrying a gun into the bank, and the gun can't function.
That's right. So let's hit on those three tenets again, right? Training, social awareness, and then 3, I think I could summarize that as just be responsible. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And those make sense.
The Second Amendment is our right. The responsibility is our it's our ethos, if you will. That's what we should be doing.
And I catch myself, man, because I am a Second Amendment advocate. I'm range cadre to my buddy Ryan. I served. I was a veteran. I practiced with firearms damn near my whole life. And I did pick up some bad habits that had to be trained out of me as I got older. But, that's because I do seek out training. But one of where I kind of get myself in trouble with the 2A team here is this. Yeah, I don't think that there should be gun laws that restrict your right to own and to keep and bear arms. Let's use the right language, right? But I kind of feel like you need to get some training before you exercise that right. And that is a shitty thing to say, but just by living in the firearms industry, we see it. You need the training. Now, should that be mandated? And if so, should the government have to pay for that, of course, from tax dollars? But, it's like driving a car. I don't know if I would feel safe if at 16, every person out on the street could just jump in a 2-ton wrecking mobile and get after it. Of course, that's not a constitutional right. It's a privilege, but
right.
Do I feel the same way about firearms? I do. And that's what kind of gets me in trouble with the 2A community a little bit. I think that you should get your damn training, be it a hunter safety course, be it one live round, be it something,
right.
Get after it. But
so in a class back when I used to teach concealed carry classes, I would try and touch on this very subject. And what I would say is this: as a Second Amendment supporter, I truly believe the Second Amendment gives us the right to take an AR, put it on a single point sling, walk through an airport, get on a plane, fly to Washington, D.C., and tour the White House without even raising an eyebrow. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what I believe as a Second Amendment supporter. As a firearm trainer, I believe everyone should have to go through training and prove competency to some degree to own a firearm. But I can't disregard the fact that there are people out there that get in situations that are entirely of not their fault, that need a firearm today because their ex-boyfriend has told them they are going to drive over there and kill them.
Right.
And they need a firearm immediately, and it's never even entered into their mind before.
Sure.
And these are all tough issues to resolve. But the more people will put focus on responsible ownership of a firearm, the better off the entire core of us will be.
I agree. Kind of leads me to my last question I wanted to get you with here. So you've been at this, as you mentioned, about 30 years. What have you seen that's different in the students today than in the past? Let's talk a bit about the quality of the student, the ego of the student, the level of training that they have before they come to you. You know, what's different now than it was when you started, as far as just the student is concerned?
Oh, just a student. Okay. Well, I've got to kind of touch on this to start this. One of the huge differences is the amount of trainers that are out there. And I think that is a good thing. I really do. Mm-hmm. There are so many good trainers that are out there now. It's not even funny. 10 years ago, it was like everybody knew everybody, and it's still a very small community, but I don't know half the trainers that are out there now,
Sure.
And I think that's a good thing. The students that I see, the majority of them are so much better trained than 10 years ago. It's not even funny. A lot of the students that come to me to really get to that next bar, if you will, of carrying a concealed handgun and being able to perform with it on a high level. My friend Gabe White talks about high performance concealed carry, and that's, him and I are just on the same page on that. I'm a huge advocate because of what I've seen in force on force classes and on videos mm-hmm. of having a roughly, 1 second to sub-second draw. And because it gives a huge advantage to you. And I see students that come wanting to learn how to do that, and and be able to and I can teach them how to do that. It's not that hard, in all honesty. I see students that have better gear, that are just eager to learn. And then on the kind of the flip side of that, I see students that show up, like I have an advanced skills, drills, and test class. Okay. The first word in the class is advanced.
Right.
I have students show up to that routinely that have never had a formal firearms training class ever. And it's
ego
just,
there.
And it's just, I don't know so much that it's ego as it is, they don't know what they don't know. You know, they just really don't. They don't have any idea what it takes to be able to draw a gun from concealment and put good hits on target quickly, you know. And so, you know, that's hard to deal with as an instructor. You know, in several cases, I've just been like, look, dude, you know, I have a full class that, you know, that you've read the requirements to this class.
Right.
I can't spend my entire time with you, you know. And then a lot of times I'm just like, you know, hey, you're just burning bad habits. The best thing you can do is just sit and watch.
Sure.
You know, and you just got to deal with those individually. But overall, the students are better prepared, better equipped, and have more knowledge and ability coming into classes than 10 years ago by leaps and bounds.
I love it, man. With that, is the last question I want to get you with here. What is your favorite class to teach, and when can we get you out to Maryland to teach that class to our students?
My has to be my AIWB skills class.
Okay.
But it's really, it's almost not. My advanced skills drills and test class is probably like my favorite class to teach, because I do a lot of demos, and it's like we hit the ground just running flat out. And, you know, like the first thing you're going to shoot is the test. But I love teaching either one of those classes. I do a lot of one-day format classes, and then I'll go, like if I come up there, I would teach two of those, you know, one on Saturday, one on Sunday,
okay,
et cetera. And man, I've got a pretty open 2022 schedule. I'm down.
Yeah. Once again, Spencer, that was such a blast having you on the show. We can't wait to get you out here to do your favorite class. I feel like this has truly been a pleasure and an honor. I've been, like I said, just becoming aware of you, but after doing the research, this will be likely one of my favorite connections to make in the firearms industry. So with that, again, sir, thank you so much. Anything you want to tell the audience real quick before we button this up?
Yeah. And again, thanks for having me, dude. This has been a blast. I do quite a bit of podcast, and this has literally been one of the best ones I've ever done.
Well, thank you.
You know, just having fun. For the listeners and the viewers, real quick, you need legal coverage if you're carrying a gun concealed. I believe in that 100% because of the risk versus reward. CCW Safe is the guys that I'm 100% invested with. And if you'll use code KC10OFF, you can save 10% and help me with my ammo fund a little bit.
I'm sure we all need that.
And everything really is right there on my website, Keepers.com, holsters, classes, and CCW Safe. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. Again, sir, it's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to work with you some more in the future. And with that, guys, we're out here.